Dame Lillard from the logo, and now we're talking about Oklahoma City and what went wrong, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time, and today, well, we're going to talk about many folks' guilty pleasure on this channel, including me, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and getting bounced for the third time in 3 seasons in the first round of the NBA playoffs with Russ Westbrook doing what he wants, which apparently is getting bounced in the first round. Look, there's a lot of things I want to get to in this autopsy because there's plenty of blame to go around. This is not all Russell Westbrook's fault, although I do put a lot of this at his feet for reasons that I'm going to get into. But how about Dame Lillard in Game 5 in Portland to close it out? They were down 15 at one point, and he was the only dude that was basically scoring for them. You know, CJ McCollum had a bad game. Enes Kanter was okay. Outside of that, you're trying to get Mo Harkless to the line, and Dame Lillard for 50. And then, with time running out, from the logo, I remember, look, I said, Laurel, you don't want to see this because Klein's running down, you know, she looks up, and Dame Lillard's still standing there. I'm going, what are you doing? Ain't no way. And then he busted open from the logo and was cold-blooded about it. Just a wave and getting bench mobbed while he's stone-faced, stone-cold killer. Dame Lillard. Look, my Scoutmaster Bill Schaefer told a story that I think we could all use right now. He's watching Steve Young do Steve Young things for the 49ers, but he's mad about it because he wanted to see Joe Montana. He did not want to see that Joe Montana was being usurped by this young cat out of Brigham Young named Steve Young, and he missed the ascension of Steve Young because he was so mad about not being able to see Joe Montana anymore. And I want to give that to you because do not be so mad about Russ Westbrook or Paul George playing a great game, honestly, that you cannot see Dame Lillard reach that upper level, like is on his Willie Hutch. Like, it's the last dragon, and Dame Lillard is going all in on showing up. It was awesome to see as a basketball fan. As a Thunder fan, you wish it would have happened to anybody else because, well, it's fun to see somebody rise. It's not so fun to see somebody rise over the top of your squad. And that's basically what it was, right? And you're thinking that OKC, as a more talented roster, should beat Portland handily, especially without Nurkic, and that ain't what happened. What happened was Dame Lillard decided enough is enough. He decided that this series was about him and the Thunder, not him and Russ, about him avenging them getting swept last year by the Pelicans. And that's how the narrative is shaped. And as far as Paul George talking about Dame Lillard taking a bad shot, the dude was 10 of 18 from 30 feet and beyond over the course of the series. It's not a bad shot for Dame Lillard. It's clearly one that he has practiced, and it's one that, frankly, I've seen in the game for years now. I remember Stevie Clark pulling up from the logo like 10 years ago at Douglas. I mean, it's just a thing that kids do, especially when they grow into be Dame Lillard, and now we're getting to see that guy really push for the best point guard in the NBA. Still Steph Curry, but that's because rings and whatnot. But let's get Dame Lillard into the conversation. Maybe next year you get to see him take another step toward not just first team all NBA, but perhaps the best point guard in the league. Now, for OKC, this is becoming way too familiar a deal. And I think that we can all agree that we can't wait for this to be over, but we got to take some things into account. Number one is Russ Westbrook. And folks are floating out that maybe you should trade him. I floated out too because I'm not sure that you can look at this roster that is well into the luxury tax going into 2019-2020 season and say, can we get it done? And I know there's folks that want to throw Billy Donovan under the bus on this, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but Russ Westbrook is in the second year of a Supermax contract, right, that they had to give him, and I would have given him. 38.5 rises to $47 million in the final year of that contract. That's a lot of cap space. And you know what? It felt good going into the All-Star break because they were 37-19 and a 3 seed in the West, right? So everything was hunky-dory, but also Paul George was an MVP candidate, and Russ Westbrook looked good as a 2 option, which is something to keep an eye on as we continue to talk about this. And more than that, while they were good offensively, their offensive efficiency rating was number 13 in the entire league, they were one of the best defensively, which was what they were hanging their hat on in 2018-2019. We're going to be very good defensively, and that's how we're going to keep staying in games, right? Number 5 in the league. Then, coming out of the All-Star break, the wheels fell off. And you're a Paul George missed 3 away from being an 8 seed, right? And they go 12-14 down the stretch. And they fall precipitously in the offensive efficiency ratings while not really having a defensive identity. And all of a sudden that went up in smoke, which I would lay at Billy Donovan's feet. I don't know what he changed or why he changed it, but there was never really something that you could say, other than Paul George, who's going to lock up anybody else, right? It just wasn't going to happen. And now with Donovan, you're in the last year of a contract with him, where you got 11 guys returning, and you got to make some moves about whether or not you think Billy Donovan is the guy going forward. The way I look at it is this way. Does Billy Donovan give you a competitive advantage as a head coach? If he does not, it's time to make a move. And I don't think that he does. You know, I don't think that there were any offensive sets or defensive sets for which I would point at Billy Donovan and say, hey, great call there, coach. Because it felt like Paul George and Russ Westbrook kind of made it up as they went along, and that works to get you into the playoffs. And if you want a round of 16 participation trophy, fine. That works, but I don't think that's where Thunder fans want to be. I'm sure that that's not where the front office wants to be. So go get you somebody and give you a competitive advantage, whether or not that be Mo Cheeks, who seems to be the Russ Westbrook whisperer, or George Karl, who's going to crack whip over the top of Russ Westbrook and ain't going to take no noise from him. Whatever it is, you need to find the next Brad Stevens and bring in OKC if that guy is not Billy Donovan, and I don't think it is, right? Let that guy sit out the year, go back to coaching. He'll be one of the hottest college coaching candidates in recent memory because of his experience at this level, and he can put together a kind of career, kind of like Lon Kruger, I think. But I don't think that Billy Donovan is the guy going forward, and I think now or never, when you're talking about cutting the coach, firing the coach, which I think we could all agree is a move as fans, but I don't necessarily think that that's going to be the move for Sam Presti, who is pulling strings, and you know how I feel about Presti. So when it comes to overhauling the roster, and you got to take into account Wes Westbrook's Supermax contract and the money that you're going to pay Paul George, you got to also think that Russ Westbrook turns 31 in November. I'm 31 now, right? And that's not necessarily an age that you want for your point guard, especially when your point guard's game is predicated on athleticism in a way that Allen Iverson's game was predicated on athleticism. So when it comes to him being taken apart and falling off a cliff, it's going to be sudden because he all of a sudden can't shoot the ball anymore. Now, maybe it's an outlier, but it wasn't like he was just an amazing shooter before this year. It's not a guy that you can expect to shoot 40% from 3. It's a guy that you can expect to take bad shots routinely, at least 5 to 7 a game. And you can take bad shots if you're a good shooter. But if you're not a good shooter and you're basically an older version, an aggro version, a fashion version of Rondo, that's not a good look for you. And I'm not even sure that you can move Russ Westbrook's contract and get dollar for dollar at this point, but it is something to keep in the back of your head. And again, Russ Westbrook, to me, is clearly the number 2 option going forward on this team as it stands. Paul George is your 1, but I also think Paul George is a beta. I don't think Paul George is an alpha. I don't think that guy wants the ball at the end. And this could be changing, though, because before he got to OKC in clutch time at game winners, he was 0 and then I think he went 4 for 8 this year. And I think most of that came in 2019, to say nothing of 2018. So maybe he's becoming an alpha. But on this team with Russ Westbrook, he's never going to have that opportunity unless Russ Westbrook wants to cede the alpha status to Paul George and let everybody know he's our number 1 option and really give him some more of that leadership role. But it seems like Paul George wants to be behind Russell Westbrook and let Russ Westbrook take those bullets and take the blame because Russ will do that. Paul George has got to do some soul searching too about whether or not he wants to be this dude. I know he wants to play with Russ Westbrook, but he wanted to play with the Russ Westbrook that we all thought we would see, 3-4 years ago. And it's not the triple doubles. I get it. Triple doubles are awesome. But you know what's not awesome? Going 4-16, going 4-15, going 4-14 in the playoffs over the last 3 years. It's just not a good look, Now we're talking about Russ Westbrook as a 4-year, $170 million contract. And Paul George also turning 31 and going to make $38 million. But the problem that I see for Oklahoma City in this autopsy is you got a lot of money invested in a lot of dudes that got you nowhere near where you wanted to go. I thought that this team should have made the Western Conference Finals at a minimum based on how it was playing before the All-Star break. They looked that good and they looked that well put together. But if you're going to gamble and lose, you're looking at a $153 million payroll, which means that you pay $132 million in luxury tax. That means that the Oklahoma City Thunder franchise is going to wire $132 million to the NBA because they can't stay under the budget. That's a bad look for me. And you got $53 million that you owe to Steven Adams over the next 2 seasons. You got $31 million that you owe to Dennis Schroeder over the next 2 seasons. Andre Robertson and his injury is an expiring contract, right, at $11 million. I don't know that you want to bring that dude back. Jeremy Grant, you're going to keep that dude. That's $9.3 million of cap, but it's considered expiring in 2021. Terrence Ferguson, you're going to keep them on the rookie deal. Pat Peterson is probably going to opt in at 5.7, and I hope Nerlens Noel opts out because he would make more money than he's going to make right now if he got the veteran minimum. But that's all to say, Sam Presti, again, is going to have to make some moves and be the guy that y'all all expect him to be. I'm of the opinion that Sam Presti's just a dude. I think he got lucky in drafting Kevin Durant, drafting Russell Westbrook, drafting James Harden, and then panicked and traded James Harden a year before he needed to trade James Harden for parts and Steven Adams. Now, you're looking at another scenario where Sam Presti might be forced to do that with Russell Westbrook. Would you trade Russell Westbrook now, owing him all this money so that you could go get draft picks and blow up the team and rebuild it again with a different coach and a different identity? Or are you going to keep trying to ride it out with Russell Westbrook and hope that something changes that gets you past the first round of the playoffs? I think at this point we all expect Oklahoma City to be a playoff team. But I would say that we're all kind of upset that they're getting bounced in the first round. Not making it to May as the Oklahoma City Thunder with Russell Westbrook and Paul George, that can't happen anymore. That's happened 2 years in a row. That can't happen anymore. You need to either add some shooting, get rid of Andre Robertson, bring somebody back in that fills that shoes as a 3-and-D guy, an Ariza type of guy. But as I see it right now, if it can happen with Portland, it can happen with anybody. Because Portland was supposed to be dead without Nurkic, without one of the best centers in the NBA. And yet, basically Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum in spurts were able to just take you apart in 5 games. I mean, Enes Kanter was great. But Myers Leonard, Mo Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, these are the guys that you're going to get blazed on? I mean, I can't live with that. As a Thunder fan, I'm sure that the front office is trying to figure out what's going on now. I really do think an overhaul is coming, though. Whether or not Russell Westbrook is a part of that overhaul is the question to me. Paul George will be. Terrence Ferguson will be. Jeremy Grant will be, right? Steven Adams, that might be a guy that they end up wanting to move, and that's one of the most beloved players. And I mean, he's quickly going into Nick Collison status. You know, it's just, that's where he is. But I'm not necessarily sure that you want to build around Russ Westbrook anymore because you tried to build around him with Melo. That didn't work. You got Schroeder, which I think was a really good move, actually. I'll give him points for that. But if you cannot secure a 1 seed, a 2 seed, or 3 seed, and you know that Russ Westbrook is going to be himself, which is to say, is he more worried about beating the media or the team in front of him? You have to ask that question. I think that sometimes he's Clubber Lang, which is to say, the best thing about Russ Westbrook's game is his ferocity and the venom with which he plays the game of basketball. It's awesome. I find that fascinating, and I'm a kindred spirit when it comes to that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm fueled by doubters and anger as well. I mean, I think most of us could lay some claim to that. But the way that Rocky beat Clubber Lang was letting him punch himself out and use that aggression against him on some Steven Seagal type stuff. And if you can do that with Russ Westbrook in the first round, what's to say that you're ever going to get to an NBA Finals, let alone a Western Conference Finals? You know, I mean, what are we waiting on? So there's lots of questions for Presti and the ownership at the Oklahoma City Thunder to answer. And I don't necessarily think that any of those answers are going to come easily. It's going to be interesting to watch what Presti and they do and how Russ Westbrook owns or doesn't own this. Because, yeah, I think a lot of this is Russ Westbrook's fault because he's the unquestioned leader, and that's what leaders do. They take blame. But I also think that he tried to defer against Portland. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. You could say that he didn't have the pieces around him. All right, fine. You tried, and you didn't come up with much. You could say that the coach is the wrong one. Well, these are all Sam Presti moves. So either you want to fire Sam Presti or you want to fire Russell Westbrook. Either way, I don't think Thunder fans like either one of those options. And for me, rings is what I'm here for. I want championships, right? This is primarily an OU football channel. And I'm the first person to lament that it's been doggone near 20 years since Oklahoma won a national championship. And Heisman trophies are cool. And Big 12 titles are cool. But really would like them to win a college football playoff game. Because I'm in it to win it. That's what I'm here for. I want to be as popular and as cool and as awesome as the Boston sports teams. I mean, we're talking about Boston still having an opportunity to get the Boston Slam. I mean, Boston sports fans got to be insufferable right now. The Celtics are good. The Patriots are the best. The Bruins are great. And the Red Sox are the best. I mean, if they can do it, what's to say that you can't get your college football team and your NBA basketball team on the same page of winning? Because that's what I'm here for. I want to be a winner. I'm not here for the round of 16 participation trophy. I'm not here for triple doubles and MVPs. I'm here for rings. I want rings. I want trophies. I want to be able to lord over my friends who root for Dallas or Houston or Clemson or Bama or whatever. Otherwise, that's cool. You can be a fan of the team and lament that Russ Westbrook is your boy and you feel like Russ Westbrook gets a bad rep and you feel like the media goes too hard on Russ Westbrook. Fine. Just cop to you don't want to win rings either. And then we'd be cool. All right, that's it for me. Doses.